and welcome to your outdoor learning lesson this week. This week is slightly different. I'm not in the outdoor learning area. I am out in the field, and that is because this week we're going to be doing a field study, and that requires me to be out and about in amongst nature. Today's session, what we're going to be doing is being able to find a plant or a wildflower that exists in the outdoors, and I'm going to be able to dig it up and take it back and identify all of the features. Now, it's really important that we don't go and dig up a plant that someone has planted there. This is where I'm looking for a weed or a wildflower, something that is naturally grown in this area. I'm not going to go and dig up a plant that someone has specifically planted there in somebody's garden or a park. So, without further ado, I have my trowel and I have a bucket to put the wildflower in. We're going to go and find ourselves a wildflower. Let's go. I am looking for a weed. If I'm looking here, I can see some plants already that have not been planted. If we take this row of plants here, these plants here have been planted because I can tell that there are lots of them and they are spaced apart. Whereas this plant here has not been planted by anyone. This is a natural plant that has started to grow in this area on its own. It hasn't been planted. So if I remove this plant, it would be fine. Let's go and find if we can find some others. Again, as we can see here, all of these plants have been planted by someone. They are part of the park's gardens. So I have no intention of digging up any of these. Again, I am looking for a weed. Again, I'm looking down and all of these flowers have been planted by the gardeners around here. So I'm not going to dig up any of these flower plants. Okay, so I have eventually found the plant that I think we are going to dig up. This natural wildflower doesn't belong here and has grown here naturally. So I think I'm going to dig it up. So I'm going to use the trowel, and my aim is to be able to get deep underneath and take up the roots with it. Let's see how it goes. Now, for the next part of my field study is to take out the flower and look and see if I can identify all of the features. To be able to do that, I need my flower to be able to stay in place. So I have some sticky tape and I'm going to stick my flower down to my recycled piece of cardboard. With my flower stuck down safely, it's time to start my field study report. And first of all, I am going to write down where I found it. And I found it in the sand. And this will help me with identifying other plants, and if I found them in soil or rocks, and maybe the root systems look a little bit different for where I found different plants. Talking about the root system, this is the first part that I'm going to label. We can see that this is a complex system of roots on this plant. Therefore, this is where I think it was gaining a lot of water, because there's lots of roots to be able to go all over the place to gather in as much water as possible, which is why the plant is still pretty green considering this time of year. So I'm going to label out roots. What we're going to do is go through the other parts of the plant, and I want you to identify the parts of the plant that you find on your plant. Maybe your plant won't have flowers, maybe it won't have fruit, maybe it doesn't have a stem or a very small stem. What I want you to do is to identify all of the features that you can see on your plant. So I'm just going to go ahead and identify all of these, and we'll come back once I've done it. Now I have labeled and stuck down all of the features that I can see on my plant. We are going to talk through them. First of all, where did I find it? I found it in the sand. Here we can see that the seeds and fruit, we can actually see the seeds and fruit. And what I'm going to do later is I'm going to pop one of them to see what's inside. Here we can see that I've labeled the flower. And I can see that there are lots and lots of buds that are going to pop open and become flowers themselves. This is the leaf, and I can see from this leaf, it's quite a large leaf, and it has lots of veins, very green actually, ideal for catching lots of sunlight. And here I've labeled the stems. As we can see, there are lots of different stems coming from where it joins onto the root. I have lots of stems coming out, and obviously the root system. The next thing that I have done is to make a few notes about the plant itself. So I've made a few notes of my own for my field study. I've noted that it's got big leaves, a short stem. It's not a tall plant, it's quite short. It has lots of roots, as we've discussed. There are small flowers dotted all over the plant. And there are lots of seed pods. I found a bunch of seed pods here, and there were a few seed pods starting there. So the plant itself has lots of seed pods and fruit. So what I will be able to do now is to be able to keep my little field study diagram and notes, and then I will be able to go out, and when I find another plant, I'll be able to compare them. If I go out and find another wildflower, I'll be able to compare the size of its leaves, how long or short the stem is, whether it has lots of roots that are quite shallow or one big thick long root that goes down deep. I'll be able to see if it has flowers and what type of flowers they are and compare it to this plant, and also the seeds and lots of seeds. So I'm going to use this as a compare and contrast against other wildflowers that I find in future, and I'll keep them all in my study. What I would like you to do is to be able to do a diagram the same as me using the wildflower that you have found and dig up. Remember, this is a wildflower. Please do not dig up someone's garden. Once you have created your own diagram, can you please take a picture and post it onto Seesaw for us all to be able to have a look at your own field study. I hope you enjoy, and I look forward to seeing your work.